Hey everybody, Bandicoot Commando here, and welcome back to Marvel Rivals. Last time, I more or less showed off the Alchemax headquarters max. Yeah, the Alchemax headquarters map, and I mostly used Devil. Well, I used Devil Dinosaur, and then I used Black Cat and White Fox. So yeah, like I said, I normally don't do the arcade mode stuff. I don't do the 6v6s or the 18 by 18s, but just had to show it off for the sake of it. So today, oh wait, no, that wasn't last time. Oh, blah 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 blah. Man, I am not in the right of my head today. What I did actually last time was that I showed off Cyclops' gameplay. Oh man, just shows you how long I went on without recording any Marvel Rivals. But yeah, I tried out Scott, and I think he might be one of my better duelists. Of course, give it time and they'll nerf him to hell, but I kind of understand his I think I understand his mechanics greatly on how he functions and works. And my god, that one move where his beams can track when you bounce it off terrain, that is a godsend to use on very agile mobile characters that just won't sit still long enough. So anyway, today, well, we're going to read some lore. Before I do, though, so once they added Cyclops, they did a few things. One, they have the 616 Vault here, which brought back skins from events and other things you might have missed. For this case, it is stuff back from Season 3. I've already gotten the Summer Special Volume 1 and 2 stuff back when it first released, and the same goes to the Queen's Codex and the Ancient Powers Awaken. Already did those. Did them long ago back in Season 3. So, now I just needed to get the skins here from the Summer Party, which I got the Summer Party stuff. So, Psylocke, Loki, Susan, and Frank's skins. The only items left I need to get are the Abysmal Flame, and I'll be sure to get those before it ends. Hey, hold on. Oh, I know why that's there. Because of this. Because of this. Yeah, but we'll go to that later. Other than the 616 Vault, there's, Bounty Annihilation. This is a new game mode, and according to what it says, what does it say? Combat zones activate in rotation. Team up to capture zones, defeat enemies, and claim victory. I believe the idea is that it changes and rotates. It's a new game mode, and I'm willing to give it a shot in the custom games. But I think the idea and the way it works is that you have to... combat zones activate in rotation. So I guess it's meant to be similar to Resource Rumble, where zones will be active and you need to capture 2 of the 3 or whatever to win. But I don't know the full details on it. But that'll be for a later time. Let's see. Oh, you can join now to get stuff if you want, but I don't want it. And then there's the Shinlong tournament thing here, which I'll be able to take care of rather easily. So yeah, they dumped in a lot of new stuff here. But that's not what we're here for. We are going to read some lore today with Cyclops. Scott Summers. Scott Summers leads the X-Men as Cyclops. Through his specialized ruby quartz visor, he precisely controls the devastating force channeled through his eyes, neutralizing any threat on the battlefield. But when that visor comes off, all restraint disappears, erupting into an unstoppable torrent of concussive energy. So far, I only just have these. The Shadow to Gaze. I like shades of black when running recon, but I can't quit the gold. I think this costume is partially based on how he appeared in the Ultimate Marvel comic universe. Though, I think instead of black, though, it was still in a dark blue color. And then there's the weapon M thing here. Scott Summers. A longtime leader of the X-Men, Scott Summers has the mutant ability to release beams of pure concussive force from his eyes, requiring him to wear special ruby quartz lenses at all times to keep his power contained. Swept away to the year 2099 by the time stream entanglement, Cyclops ended up in New York and was targeted by Alchemax after his visor was damaged while protecting Moon Girl, who was accidentally caught in the conflict. Alchemax imprisoned Cyclops and used his mutant ability to create a new powerful form of chronovium. Clear eyes, full hearts. Alarms began to blare as Alchemax headquarters went into full lockdown. After being transported across eras from the year of 2099 back to the modern day, the anachronistic anomaly towering over Lower Manhattan had now become the prime target for a group of heroes looking to prevent any further damage to the already unstable fabric of reality. Their primary goal, to deliver a portable version of the Time Stream Reintegration Device, or the TRD, to a secret lab inside where Moon Girl was waiting. If she could amplify the device's power via an experimental strain of chronovium, it might send Alchemax HQ back to its point of origin, repairing any damage that the chronal incursion had caused. Attacking a futuristic megacorporation that had its own private army was certainly a dangerous mission. But it was one the heroes knew they had no choice but to accept. Devil Dinosaur let out a furious roar as he crashed through the tower's fortified front gates. On the prehistoric Predator's back, the Punisher rolled into action, firing his weapons at full blast to send Alchemax security guards and public eye officers running in terror. As the peculiar pair reveled in the chaos they were causing, Reed Richards and his other allies followed them into the breached building to locate Moon Girl and execute their plan. But one hero wasn't sticking to the script. For once, Jean Grey wasn't focused on saving the world. All she wanted was to save the man she loved. "Scott," she called out with her mind, "I'm coming for you." Using her telepathy, Jean scanned the tower for any trace of her beloved's thoughts. But although she could feel Scott's in her heart, in her head there was nothing but silence. At best, Cyclops was being deliberately shielded from her detection. At worst, the experiments he had been subjected to while captive had shattered his mind to the point where it was no longer recognizable. Jean was not about to accept the latter as a possibility. The very thought of it caused her Phoenix Force to flare. Cosmic flames leapt from her body as she began to tear through everything in her path. "Keep your cool, Jean," Rogue said as she followed closely in the wake of Jean's destruction. "We ain't gonna have any chance of saving Cyclops if we bring the whole dang tower crashing down on us first." Jean turned and glared at her teammate, her eyes aflame. Rogue instantly recognized that look. a woman determined to protect the man she loves at any cost. Jean's desire wasn't just fueled by love, though. It was sustained by unbridled cosmic fury. Rogue knew that kind of passion could easily spiral out of control. And if anything had happened to Scott, she feared that things might escalate faster than any of the heroes present could control. Suddenly, she hoped more than ever that Scott Summers was still alive and well somewhere in this building. For all of their sakes. Come on. Here we go. Jean burned her way through a labyrinth of metal walls with ease, searching every room on every floor for any traces of her fellow founding X-Man. Finally, she reached a top-secret research and development facility where Cyclops was being held inside a ruby quartz containment tube. Jean raced over to the tube and put her hand on the glass, mustering up all of her mental might to make contact with the man on the other side. Still nothing. Alchemax's psychic dampeners were certainly impressive if they could block the mind of an Omega-level mutant. But after a long, tense moment that seemed like an eternity, Scott Summers slowly turned and held his hand against the clear wall, perfectly aligned with Jean's. He was still alive, and as far as Jean Grey was determined, there was nothing in this timeline or any other that would keep them apart any longer. Jean raced over to the containment unit's control panel and began frantically search for a button that would safely release Cyclops from his crystalline prison. Meanwhile, Rogue still had her eyes on her captive ally and could sense that something wasn't right. "I know you're desperate to get your beau out of there, Jeannie," Rogue said, but I don't gotta be a mind reader to see that Scott's trying to warn us about something. Jean turned back and looked closer, peering through the red-tinted crystal of the tube and into the eyes of her long-lost love. It was rare that she got the chance to do so, since Scott's mutant powers usually forced him to keep his eyes concealed behind a special visor at all times. As their gaze met, Jean could see Scott's pain, but also his fear. Their psychic rapport may have been blocked by Alchemax's technology, but she didn't need to recognize that. For once in his life, Scott was terrified. But of what? The answer would have to wait. Scott suddenly snapped his head up in pain inside the containment tube. It was clear that the implants inside him were ravaging his body, and Jean knew she couldn't wait any longer to set him free. She summoned the force of the Phoenix and shattered the crimson crystal container. "Jean," Scott said weakly, as the walls of his prison began to crumble around him. "You shouldn't have done that." Before the ruby quartz shards could even hit the floor, Cyclops was already releasing a powerful optic blast, decimating everything in his line of sight. Rogue instinctively leapt for cover, while Jean erected a telekinetic shield around her body. "Close your blasted eyes, Summers!" Rogue yelled. I can't," Cyclops replied, beams of pure concussive force still pouring from his eyes. "Whatever Alchemax did to me, they made sure I couldn't close them ever again." "Maybe this will help," Jean said, presenting Cyclops one of his spare visors, which she had brought along with her in case of an emergency like this. She carefully floated it over to Cyclops in a telekinetic bubble, but his optic blast was so intense that it broke through the protective aura surrounding the visor and crushed it to dust. "You have to get out of here," Cyclops said. My powers They're completely out of control. I can't let myself hurt you or anyone else. I just found you again, Scott, Jean said. Her own shield still held strong, but her heart ached as she felt her lover's pain. I won't leave you. There has to be a solution. I think I might have one, a young girl's voice replied over the building's intercom. Oh, this is Moon Girl, BT Dubs. Sorry to interrupt your reunion, but while we're up here in my lab waiting on the TRD to calibrate, I figured I'd let you what I know. Mind filling us in, kid? Rogue asked from her hiding spot, which was growing less safe with every moment that passed. Okay, Lunella said. When Alchemex was trying to tap into the energy source that fuels Mr. Summers' optic blast, they needed a continuous flow of power, so they had to force his eyes open, like permanently. That left his ocular physiology vulnerable. And when that energy was combined with chronovium during their experiments, the chronal feedback caused a fundamental change to the biological structure of his eyes. What kind of change? Jean asked. Basically, his eyeballs crystallize, Moon Girl replied. He can't close them, Rogue said. Then he can't turn off his blast. And there ain't no way I can get close enough to steal his powers and shut them down at the source. There may be another way to fix it, Moon Girl continued, but it's just a theory, and way too risky. I don't care how dangerous it is, Jean said, as she watched Cyclops writhe in agony as the endless surge of force erupted from his skull. I'll do whatever it takes. That much power needs a safe place to go, Lunella said. Alchemex says that it originates from some place called the Punch Dimension. I'm still not convinced. Even if they're right, though, it's not like we can just send it back there. So instead, we need a way to absorb it. Some sort of vessel for all of that overflowing energy. But I can't think of a single thing on Earth with that kind of capacity. I can, Jean replied, the shape of a cosmic firebird forming around her body. The Phoenix is life and creation incarnate, and ever since it was wounded by Gnawl on Clintar, it has been seeking a source of energy potent enough to replenish it. Scott's powers might maybe just be what the Phoenix needs to stoke its flames, just as he always ignited the fire in my heart. So it seems that ever since the events on Clintar, the Phoenix had been trying to recover its power, and this might do the trick. OMG, you guys are too cute, Lunella said. And also, that might actually work. Go get your man, Miss Gray. With that, Jean dropped her telekinetic shield and began to walk slowly towards Cyclops. Despite their unrivaled concussive power, his optic blast simply parted around her flaming figure, doing no damage to her phoenix form whatsoever. Jean, please, no, Cyclops pleaded. But Jean continued her approach. When she finally reached Cyclops, Jean leaned in and looked directly into her lifetime companion's eyes. The endless stream of energy poured directly into Jean's body at full blast, but she never moved, never flinched. She just absorbed every ounce of force into herself, her cosmic flame growing bright, ever brighter. What do you know? Rogue said in disbelief. As Scott's energy continued to restore the power of the Phoenix Force, Jean's absorption seemed to be gradually stabilizing the intensity of his output. The line between their physical forms began to blur. They were becoming one, body and soul. Look at me, Scott Summers, Jean whispered. You have nothing to fear, not while I'm with you. Suddenly, the brilliant red light of Cyclops' optic blast was replaced by a burst of blinding white, and in that instant, everything changed. With her energy now fully restored, Jean had taken on a new form, a white phoenix, and her transformation had somehow stabilized the crystallization of Scott's eyes. It was as if the two had been reborn, when their powers achieved a perfect balance. Scott shut his eyes tight as Jean held him in her arms, as a single tear found its way out from underneath his closed eyelids. The sacred white radiance surrounding Jean slowly faded with it, as though it had been nothing more than a fleeting miracle. After all this time, Cyclops was finally home again. Alright then, that's the first lore story of Scott there. Second one, War Captain, and then the House of Summers. I think with the House of Summers, I know Scott and Jean had children. They had like one or two children, and I don't, well, there's Cable. I know there's Cable, because Cable is said to be a descendant between Scott and Jean in the far future. But anyway, that's not what I want to get at. I want to get on with my thoughts with things. So, first off, even though this is a lore story for Cyclops, it focused more on Jean, if anything. It just felt more like a focusing for her, but at least now Scott was healed, and thankfully, like, because I remember hearing how it's like, oh, his eyes have been damaged to the point that he can't close them, but thanks to becoming the White Phoenix for that one moment, Jean was able to heal him, and now with him semi back to normal, it seems things will turn around. But more importantly, Scott is back and can lead the X-Men. And as for my thoughts on Cyclops alone, I gotta say, I remember, I believe, that when I saw Cyclops and everything, I didn't really think Scott was that impressive, to be honest. Like, as a kid, I just simply saw him as the guy who can shoot laser energies from his eyes. Like, he had no other special abilities to go with it. And this was before I learned more on that his energy blast or concussive force. And it doesn't help that in the X-Men movies, that they kind of downplay Scott's character as well. No respect to Jason Marsden, though, which hopefully his appearance in Doomsday will make up for it. But, well, that was in the original trilogy. When it came to, like, X-Men First Class, well, more importantly, when it came to Age of Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, they at least played him up better, I believe. But yeah, seeing that Scott can use his beams to not only reflect and refract, and even achieve a form of flight, that goes to show you that, you know, when it comes to your superpowers, your powers don't have to be flashy and powerful. You can take the most simplest form of a power and a concept, and provided that you are creative enough and put enough application to it, you can make it more powerful than what it seems on the surface. So, that will do for this episode of Marvel Rivals. Join me next time. So, Scott wasn't the only one with new lore. It's 3 new lore for this half, and we just got through Scott. Join us next time. Join me next time as I read Daredevil's second lore story. You heard that right. It's Daredevil who's got his second lore story. So that is it. Oh, wait, no, not yet. Gotta read this new team up. Let's see. Oh, I passed it. The Blast Slash. Wait a minute, does that mean... Yeah, it means that Wolverine's team up with Phoenix was tweaked and removed. Any new team-ups that they might have tweaked or changed? No? Okay. The Blast Slash. Apparently I wasn't the only X-Men that Alchemax took an interest in, Cyclops said as he fended off yet another clone of his mutant allies. Yeah, Wolverine agreed. I missed out the first round against these jerks. Jean kept me updated, saying Alchemax calls them the Corporate Raiders, an elite strike force made using our DNA. They may look like us and have our powers. Slim, but they're severely lacking when it comes to personality and manners. And that says a lot coming from you, Logan, Scott replied. Very funny, Logan said, as he locked claws with a clone version of himself. But this ain't a laughing matter. You're right, Scott said. We need to finish this fight. And you're too evenly matched against a clone of yourself. I can help you with that, if you trust me. I trust you, Summers, Logan said, realizing that Scott was about to unleash an optic blast in his direction. But whatever they did to your eyes might have worn off yet. You're aiming at the wrong Wolverine. Actually, Scott said with a smirk, I'm right on target. With that, he released a powerful optic blast that hit Wolverine directly in his adamantium claws. Logan winced in pain as the concussive force reverberated through the unbreakable metal, causing intense friction that superheated them. Don't know how the hell you did that, psych, Logan said. The kind of tick you never thought of it before. Wielding his newly heated, glowing claws, Logan spun swiftly, slashing through his clone's own claws with ease. Soon, Scott and Logan stood triumphant as the Corporate Raiders were defeated once again. Alchemax may have been able to copy the X-Men's powers, but they could never hope to duplicate the heart that made them a team and help them overcome any odds together. So, Scott will supercharge Logan's claws, extending his attack range. While active, Logan's vicious rampage is replaced with kinetic claws, granting him a brief forward lunge that unleashes a flurry of slashes around him. See. Okay, so you press the button to activate it. And then when it comes to your, to the dash, it's replaced with this dash. Pretty handy. That is something that didn't occur to me, was the fact that because it caused the claws to reverberate, I would assume that had to reverberate his whole skeleton, and that had to have hurt. So yeah, now that I got that done, now next time we will read Daredevil's second lore story. So, that is it, and I will see you guys next time.